Hey everyone, Tactics here with my final Mythic boss guide for patch 11.1. Where in this video, we're going to be going through Chrome King GALLYWIX, discussing the extreme differences this fight has compared to the normal and heroic versions of the fight, going through my recommended WeakAuras as well as how to set them up with your MRT note, and then walking you through our first kill of the boss, giving you some tips and tricks that will hopefully help you and your guild get your cutting edge achievement. Now, this is a bit of a weird one, as most of the fight's difficulty is actually concentrated solely into phase 1 of the encounter, and then on top of that, it does share abilities from the lower difficulties, but the phases themselves are actually almost entirely different, and also, as you can see here, not listed in the dungeon journal. So I'm going to talk to you through the most notable mythic adjustments that you really need to keep in mind when you're starting this boss fight, but the rest of the smaller changes I'll kind of cover during our walkthrough of each of the different phases. So to start, right off the top, one of the 4 quadrants of the room is gone. That's not in the dungeon journal, but the southwest corner of the room just starts full of electricity, so you have less of those generators to actually use throughout the duration of the fight. On top of this, when you are pulling the boss, he immediately goes and does his intermission where he craters onto a random player and jumps in the mech and then starts spinning with that absorb shield. So basically, phase 1 and phase 2 from the normal and heroic versions of the fight, as you know them, are just gone. They do not exist. The intermission is the start, and then your kind of phase 3 equivalent is where stage 1 of the fight actually is. Now, again, I'll walk through that in a bit. Let's talk about the bombs. Major change for the bombs. First, when they spawn, they don't have full energy. You'll need to have your bomb carrier run through some of these electricity orbs, which spawns from the Gigablast frontal, to actually charge it up before you can bomb one of the generators. 2, anyone who touches these bombs actually gets a debuff. So it's in the journal, I believe, here somewhere, surely. Should be on the ads. Yeah, the technicians, of course, they'll drop the bomb here. It's auto-locking cuff bomb. So basically, when you pick up a bomb, if for any reason this aura is removed, so basically if the player who had the bomb or currently is carrying the bomb ever dies in the entire duration of the boss fight, it's just a wipe. 12.5 million fire damage. So these players who have ever touched a bomb basically become VIPs. So you really want to put very tanky classes or just your best players that you trust the most to live on bomb assignments. You need 5 players total to do bomb stuff. Common choices are fire mages, just your best mobile range players. So you often see like evokers here. We gave it to one of our hunters. Demon hunters are a common one for one of the later bombs. And finally, the last bomb is commonly on one of your tanks. That's by far one of the most impactful changes to this boss fight. Other thing to keep in mind is the group soaks are a bit different now. That's called combination canisters in phase 1. So basically, it's going to spawn both some TikTok canisters on the ground, on place on the ground, as well as 2 fused canisters, which are the random player group soak. So you're gonna have a ton of these at once, 6 total, 2 of the fused and 4 of the TikTok canisters in phase 1. So you're gonna want to make sure you are assigning players to be in specific locations, and I'll go over that specifically and how we handled that when we get through phase 1. In phase 2, which again not in the dungeon journal, and in phase 3, you get the return of that frontal ability that was in the normal and heroic version of the fight, and in that case you need a minimum of 5 players in each of the soaks. And that's probably a good time to transition here to the WeakAuras of the boss fight, because there is actually the main WeakAura in the liquid pack does actually track that frontal soak. So it's here at the bottom. Basically, you put a bunch of players' names in, it takes the first 5 and it tells them to get in that soak, and if any of them are dead or already debuffed, you can have backups in this list as well to have them be called to go in the soak instead. In terms of how many players, which players you should assign to these soaks, the biggest thing is you want minimum 5. This WeakAura only shows 5. I recommend putting 6 players into each frontal, and so how we got around that is we did not include the tanks in this WeakAura. So the tanks, even though they were assigned, they're obviously the person that the frontal is pointed at, they're going to be in frontals. They weren't in this WeakAura at all. And so you just put the 5 other players that you want to be in this WeakAura, and it will call them, and you'll actually be splitting the damage 6 ways instead of 5. Makes it a little bit safer, in my opinion, so that's what I recommend doing. And then you can still have a few backups. Other WeakAuras that we used in this boss fight, this Pop-Tart Corn Dog one, where it's just a CC order, basically just says, who should be CCing the ads when they come up in P2. Honestly, I don't think this is super necessary anymore because the ads die in like 2 cc's, maybe 3 if you're really slow, but we did use it, so I'll link it down in the description below. And then of course the interrupt anchor WeakAura, which I've linked a few times for the technician interrupts in phase 1 just to reduce some damage. You could also probably use this for the sentry ads in phase 2, but you know, those only end up getting kicked once. Again, I'll talk about that later. And so you don't really need to assign a kick order. You just need to assign a single person to kick those ads. In terms of how our final note looked like, just this. So we had the assigned soaks at the top of the thing. This is just so people saw them with the note open. And then we had our CC thing from the popular corn dog WeakAura, our kick rotation for the first phase of the fight, and then our frontal assignments for phase 2 and phase 3. Just looks like that. Now let's talk a little bit about the raid plan, a little bit about comp here. So basically this is going to be a 2 tank, 4 heal, 14 DPS. Honestly, compared to some of the other bosses in this raid tier, I'd say there's no weird class stuff on this boss, or very minimal weird class stuff. Like I said, mages are a decent stack to be bomb carriers specifically, but really you can just put in your best players here and you're going to kill this boss much faster. There's no like, hey, you need good multi-daughters, hey, you need good spread AoE. None of that is really required on this boss fight, so you can kind of just play whichever your best roster is. Now, as I've alluded to, there is some assignments in terms of positioning you will need to do throughout this fight. So let's go immediately off the top here in the raid plan, which I'll link down in the description below. We have assignments for the intermission, which starts ASAP because there's a new mechanic where the boss basically shoots a beam out between him and a random player, and if you're in that beam, you're going to take additional damage. But if you're the person targeted by that beam, you will take damage based on your distance to the boss. So you need all the players to be rotating around. You can't have range outrange this, and you need to be somewhat spread out in these quadrants such that you're not cleaving each other with your beams, which is why we put 5 people in each quadrant here, and we put some of the casters that have issues moving with the tank specifically because they're not really concerned about getting cleaved by other people's beams. So that's an assignment you will need to make. There's also some P2 assignments, but we'll get to that in P2. So let's just go walk through the first phase of the boss fight, where initially we are all stacked up on this point here to make sure that the boss drops down in a decent spot where all 4 quadrants have some ability to rotate. Also, make sure you are not pre-pulling this boss. He immediately autos the first person a couple times with his Gatling cannon. So you'll see I basically wait for all the you know, the pre-casted abilities to go out, and I'll taunt right before then to trigger the boss. Other thing to do, he does smash down very quickly. It's a lot of damage. We had a wind rush, a pre-wind rush down on the ground. A pre-roar would work as well. Just something to make sure people have speed. There's a warlock gate set up as well for the range. I don't want to do that. Just something to make sure everyone gets out consistently, because you know, having people just sit in this circle and die is definitely a frustrating way to wipe early on. But you know, having that happen later on in prog is not good. So here we are, kind of spread in our quadrants. You don't need to be afraid to go too far. Like, this is perfectly fine. You don't need to be all stacked up as close as possible. The biggest thing, first priority, is not cleaving your beams. As long as you are not cleaving your beams, you're going to probably be fine, because even if you're relatively far away, like you can even be this far back, and as long as you're not cleaving your beams, you're totally fine. So the biggest thing for sure is just making sure you're not cleaving, and then distance is secondary. And again, tanks don't really care about cleaving whatsoever. We're kind of stacked up on top of each other, and the range behind us, who are the less mobile ranged, don't need to worry about cleaving us. We'll milk this boss for a couple seconds, but you know, once things start dipping, the spirit link starts ending, that's when we're going to interrupt this boss. And immediately we're going to show off the differences of phase 1 in this boss fight, because like I said, it's more similar to phase 3, but it's still quite different. So as you can see here, the ads spawn behind us on the platform with the generator, and this is actually true on the 3 remaining generators. So these ads are already active now on generator 2 and generator 3 over there. And so one thing we did notice is that if like your boomkin or someone stepped a little bit too close to the active, or to the ads over here, Starfall or other AoEs would actually trigger those mobs, like trinkets and stuff like that, and they would run in. Very bad, so you don't want to do that. So make sure you are not too close to the other mobs on the platform, because otherwise they'll just AFK on their platform and be fine. The other thing is the technician won't move until it's pushed below 90% health. That's when it'll start to actually cast on players. So you need to make sure that everyone Once these ads spawn, immediately focuses into that technician to actually get it to move, and you have a quick first kick on it to pull it out and make sure you can AoE it down here. Not AoE it, actually priority target it down here. Basically, the only DPS check on this boss fight is how quickly you can kill the technician. On the really the first one, this is the tightest kind of check, because he gets to Giga Blasting within 12 seconds, as you can see here, or Giga Coil, sorry, in 19 seconds. So this is the one that's kind of on a quicker timer than the rest of the ones. So make sure you are focusing that technician. Now we have the tank bomb debuff. I'm going to pull this off to the side, and this is kind of, I guess we can talk about the roles of tanks here. So basically in phase 1, you're kind of split into 2 roles. 1, the tank that takes almost every single ego check, and 2, the tank that soaks all of the bombs. So as a paladin, you're doing the bomb soak job. So basically this goes out, it's going to spawn 4 bombs in a line between the boss and you can just use those to kind of bounce between the bombs, because they spawn in a line, and you just, as long as you're facing the first bomb in the line, I guess the bomb you're starting at, it'll bounce you backwards, bounce you backwards, bounce you backwards, and then you can just soak all the bombs. You're going to need a pretty heavy defensive, not only for the initial hit of the bomb soak, but also the nasty dot it applies to you. Now, one thing we notice, which is about to happen, is if you taunt the boss early, whether that be you taunting the boss, or I believe in this case, our other tank needing to use the AoE taunt to get aggro on the ads, if you taunt early, it seems like the bombs kind of bug out and they're spawning. So you're actually going to see in this case, all the bombs go in their animation and then all spawn under the boss. We think this is tied to taunting early. Maybe it's tied to just disrupting shout in general, but weird bug. Just be aware of this. So in this case, I have to do some cringe things, which I don't want to do, and like get in here and soak awkwardly, as opposed to the bouncing soak, which I'll show you in the second section, third section, when it's not weird. So you want to make sure you are soaking this. Generally, you want to soak as quickly as possible. I have to bubble really early here. Generally, I would bubble like on the third one, but it's in the beam. I had to bubble early. It is what it is. This is going to blow up for rate damage in 6 seconds. Now, one thing you should notice here about everyone else, you can see, obviously, you get these blaze lines which go out. Your goal of people with these blaze lines is to move out and not point it near the actual group. There's an okay rule you can follow where based on the direction of your blaze lines, you can dodge in that direction. So you can see this guy's got blaze lines all pointing upwards in this direction. They dodge that way. This guy has blaze lines all going down and to the right, so he dodged down to the right. This guy has 3 different directions, so it's a little more awkward to him, but he's basically just trying to not shoot these blaze lines through where the raid is stacking, which is directly under the boss to bait the Giga Blast Frontal. Note on the Giga Blast Frontal, it cannot target any of the players with the blaze lines. Everyone else does need to bait, so make sure you are doing that. As soon as you see the Giga Blast Frontal, you need to immediately dodge out, because it's going to spawn those electric balls, which I briefly talked about here somewhere along the line, which is why it can be beneficial to do what we did and pull the boss close to this grate, not only to allow for early cleave on the ads, but to also focus all the orb spawns into this little area. Because if you had done this like further down, these orbs can be all spread out, and this just makes it really, really easy for the bomb person to actually grab their bomb, which you can see here is there with no energy, run through this pile, immediately hit max energy, and immediately be able to dunk, which you're going to see in a second here. Boom, he goes, runs through the big pile, immediately gets full energy, dunks, it's over. You take very few soaks, very few ticks of the damage rather, and it's super, super easy to do. Then we have the first set of soaks. And this is where we get into our other assignments for phase 1. Should be here. There it is. So we have them numbered basically from the inner part going outwards, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we have basically 3 people assigned to each soak. We have melee assigned to the first one, just to make it easier for them to hit the boss. The remaining melee assigned to the second one, with one of our less mobile ranged, our decently mobile ranged here, and our most mobile ranged on number 4, specifically because this is going to be the hardest one to get to on the scariest overlap of this fight, which is the third set of soaks. Over here, you'll see we have the split of healers, the tanks, as well as our 1 rogue being in the intersection, the Venn diagram of the healer soaks, just to ensure that there is at least 3 people in each soak no matter what. Note these soaks always target healers, which is why the healers are all up here, because we know for a fact that the healers are going to be assigned. The actual hard healer assignments don't really matter when the players get picked. Basically, when the healers get picked, you just want to make a Venn diagram. That's all you care about. It doesn't matter if you're a left side healer and you're the right Venn diagram. It's totally irrelevant as long as there's 2 people basically in the Venn diagram, which are, you have 3 people assigned to it. It's going to be okay. The other thing is, you notice we do have 1 extra DPS up here. We have 3 people in this one. Basically, our Sherwin in our case is going to be kind of floating, going to different soaks depending on the stage of the fight. The first one is the easiest set of soaks, so he just chills up here. But for later sets, you're going to see people being busy doing other roles like getting bombs or soaking, or sorry, not soaking, sorry, dropping bombs off and stuff like that. So we have 1 floater whose position adjusts depending on which stage of the fight it is. So instead of multiple people having to potentially adjust and learn how to get to certain soaks in time or do that kind of thing, you just have 1 guy who's running around covering for whoever potentially might not be able to make it. And go look at what this looks like. You can see here. The other thing too is these soaks kind of detonate 1 at a time, starting from the one closest to the center of the room. So this is going to detonate first. You can see they kind of cascade, detonate 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. So make sure you stay in your soak until all of them are detonated, just to make sure that you are good. And yeah, you do have a little bit more time to get to these closer ones if possible. Then suppression starts, and this is kind of always the indicator of when you need to move. So as soon as suppression starts, you immediately just start running to the next ad set. That's the rule essentially. Biggest thing, don't run here early. You will, 1, potentially cover the platform with these suppression things, and you will, 2, if you're not a tank, get absolutely owned by these mobs. And let's actually talk about these mobs, since this is the first time we're actually seeing them properly with my POV. 1, again, this guy, he's going to stop this cast like 90%, then he'll start his kick and you can pull him off. 2, these wrenchmongers, when they lumbering rage, this is actually legitimately terrifying now. You ignored it basically on heroic. It causes them to melee for like 15 million damage, and so you need to make sure you have soothes assigned to get these mobs. So we had our hunters basically hard assigned to deal with this. We also had our evoker do the first set of the fight, just because it'll instant clear both of them when they cast, but he does actually need to hold it for the ads in P2 later on, so he can't do all of them. But otherwise, just hunters getting this. We have our druid as a backup soothe if the hunters ever miss. But basically, as long as you have 2 soothes, like if you had 1 druid and 1 hunter, that's more than enough for you to get all of these every single time. And it's really just 1 soothe. You can see this is the first time they're casting Lumbering Rage. They're already at like 40% health, so you get it real quick. Boom, like literally like 1 second they have the buff and it's gone, because the tanks get absolutely owned by their melee swings when that happens. So just really be careful with those mobs and make sure they're getting soothed. And you can see here the DPS check to kill the technician, it's already dead. It's like nowhere near as close as the previous one. So again, the hardest DPS check of the fight is killing the first technician in time, straight up. So make sure you are doing that, focusing the technicians always when they're up. The next set of soaks is coming. So again, we killed the mobs. We're going to go out and do this. And then immediately after these soaks, we're doing another Giga Blast bait. So everyone who does not get a blaze line here needs to get up to the front of the room. And you can see they actually preemptively get up to the front of the room. And then blaze mines just kind of move out. Everyone else is just baiting there. This is what the bombs look like, by the way, when they're not bugged. So again, I taunt immediately after the circle goes out. I take my 1 ego check of the fight. And then I run out here. Bounce, 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 and bounce. Just bounce you across if you face your camera like this, which is very helpful, very useful. Helps you get them quickly. Again, because we stacked up, all the blue orbs are there. Our 1 bomb guy runs through the blue orbs, gets fully stacked up, detonates the generator here to end the damage. And then there's still some blue orbs there. This is the thing. On every set, there should still usually be blue orbs if someone didn't soak them. So be aware, these will stun you with a magic stun. If you step on them for like 7-8 seconds or something like that. So if someone accidentally touches one, make sure you dispel them, but do your best to avoid them. We're gonna have to do like soaks here, so you can see the soakers. Just make sure that they're not too close to those blue orbs behind us, and then they're going to disappear eventually. They're gone at this point. So I think it's like 30 seconds ish or something like that they'll last for. Suppression happens, last set of ads, we go over there. Again, don't try not to get all the suppression circles on this platform. And now the boss here is not going to go all the way to this platform. We're actually going to pull these guys halfway through this quadrant here, because we're going to get a tank bomb in a second here, and we want to run this out to the edge of the platform. And this is what's basically leading up to the scariest part of the fight. Is essentially, this is the hardest overlap probably of the entire fight. So ego check, I taunt right after the ego check here to get the bombs. Boom, we go off to the corner. I drop it over here. This is going to then also trigger the blaze lines and the bomb. So boom, the blaze lines go out. People move. Everyone who doesn't get the blaze lines is baiting the Giga Blast up to here. And you can see there's like a Warlock gate out, because basically what's going to happen here is the soaks are going to happen. Actually, the soaks are literally happening right now, as you can see on my screen. So they've just started to spawn. So everyone needs to bait this Giga Blast and immediately move to their assigned position. So, you know, like the assignments we saw earlier. So that's why we have our most mobile people on soak number on the most innermost soak. That's soak number 4, I believe, in our diagram. I can show you here. These guys going all the way out to here. Right, we have a lock gate to help these 3 get to number 3, and then melee is just going to be using their move speed, people in 1 and 2 to get to theirs. And again, they have a little bit more time because number 4 and number 3 actually detonate first. In terms of backups for this set, I believe Sherwin is backing up one of the our hunter. So I believe on set 4 on the second set, because that's who's going to be doing the bomb shenanigans on the second set. And then on this third quadrant where we're doing the gate stuff we're talking about, he's backing up our demon hunter. So he's going into soak 1 on this one. Now in terms of how we do this, obviously mages have blinks. Our hunter specifically is actually still a void elf from Muggsy. So he's actually void elfing to get out to number 4. So that's how he's doing it with just 1 warlock. And the warlock gate is going to actually number 3 there to get them into it. So again, I'm soaking the bombs while this is happening. Soaks are spawning. Everyone else who's not blaze lines, they're baiting the frontal. As soon as the frontal ends, gate, blinks, everyone's going out there. If you get assigned to the blaze line, by the way, and you're one of the people in 3 or 4, you actually just book it to your soak. You preemptively head over to your soak, because obviously you're going to have to move away from the warlock gate or move away from whatever. And you can see there was people already down there in that soak. At this point, I'm also externaling our demon hunter, who is our bomb carrier, who's not going to be able to stack in our CDs here. We just drag the 2 healer soaks on top of our 2 melee soaks here, just group soak it in a barrier, heal everything off. And then the barrier hopefully does last here for the tank detonation in a second. Boom, AMZ goes down as well. Watch that circle for the ad spawn. And that's the hardest overlap of the fight. So if you're able to get through this, honestly, the hardest part of the fight is straight up done. Like, this is actually the hardest part of the fight. Not joking, not exaggerating. That's the hardest overlap. If you can master that, if you can consistent through that, you will kill this boss in a very low number of pulls beyond it. So going through the rest of this fight, this ad set here, you have 2 technicians that spawn. So, and you have 3 wrenchmongers. So this is where you'll need a 3rd soothe of some kind to deal with that wrenchmonger, sorry, the slumbering rage. And from here, you see I pull out 1 technician. And we're going to keep this guy for later, because we want this bomb to spawn a little bit later. Once you actually pick up the bomb and you've got a charge, like, you can carry it forever. But we don't want this bomb to spawn just yet, because we're still, you know, a ways from the actual Giga Blast stuff from going on. And we're still a ways from the tank, who's going to be the one picking this up, to being able to do that, because it's going to be the other tank, and he needs to take his tank bomb out first, and then he wants to pick up this bomb. So I'm going to take this guy away. I'm going to keep interrupts on him. There's another set of soaks happening over here at the same time while they're doing that. I'm just over here playing my own game. This bomb is our last mage bomb. He's going to end up picking that up. Boss is doing his suppression, so we all run away. There's no more ads to deal with. So people are just like kind of slowly hitting this, but mostly hitting the boss. This goes out. Once the boss comes over here, this is kind of a fine time for the technician to die. Blaze lines start. I pull him to the middle line of the quadrant 2 and quadrant 3 that we have, because we're basically going to fill quadrant 1 with electricity with that first bomb you saw drop from our mage. And so I pull him on the halfway line, because this is where we're going to be doing P2, and just point him here again to cluster the electricity orbs together. This one's important. You can't have anyone accidentally touch one of these electricity orbs, because you need all of them to charge your 2 remaining bombs. You have 1 on the mage and you have 1 on the tank, and you need them to be fully charged here. Technically, you don't need the tank one fully charged. You could potentially charge it in the next phase maybe, but you want to charge it there basically. I'm going out here. I'm soaking the last set of bombs of the fight, clicking on 1 early, because why not? And then we're doing soaks. And again, this soak is pretty straightforward. believe pretty much everyone is in their right spot. You may have missed it. Our mage did dunk here. So basically how he dunked, there's a warlock gate from the beginning of the fight. He can take he can alter, take the warlock gate, blink out there, get his dunk, and then alter all the way back. So mage, it's good to have a mage on the 4th dunk, basically, because they're very, very good at doing that. And now we are transitioning into phase 2. So we pull the boss over to the edge to transition into phase 2, where we have some more assignments to talk about. So now we're going to have half the platform gone. And this is the spreads that we have assigned. Basically, you need, like I said, at least 5 players in each cone. We have 5 players on top of the tank assigned to each cone. We've got group 1 here. And group 2 on this side. So if you're on the outside facing the center of the room, this is the left, this is the right. You also have the VIPs in the middle of the room here, kind of avoiding soaks, or down on the edge. So you have our 2 mages here, you have our hunter, you have our demon hunter. All 4 of them are not assigned to ever be in a soak because they're VIPs. And then you of course have the tank, who is going to be in the soak, but the tank is going to be in the safer soak. So this is an important note. Group 1 is the more dangerous soak. So have your non-bomb tank be in group 1. Group 2 is the safer soak, sorry. So you have them in there. In terms of who you're putting in group 1, you want people with either immunities or extremely powerful defensives to be in this group, because the 3rd soak of both phase 2 and phase 3, which goes on to group 1 because it's an odd soak, is extremely dangerous. So we have a rogue who has cloak. We have a Mistweaver monk who has diffuse and can cocoon himself. We have a shadow priest that has dispersion. We have a hunter that has turtle, and we have a shaman as the other healer in this group, who is going to be getting spell warding. So that one person does not need it. You can shift it around. You have a resto druid, you put the resto druid in here, right? Just someone who's going to be getting spell warding, essentially, who is not a VIP, because they have to deal with more dangerous overlap. So that is an important distinction when you are making these groups. The rest of this is basically just to make sure that that people have a decent amount of space with some of the bombs that are going to be going out in this phase, because there's no longer tank bombs. There's now player targeted circles, and you need to be able to spread out with those. There's also a lot of space and area denial with like orange circles going through these 2 outer rings of the platform, as well as electricity circles cutting off all of these lines on the platform over time, which you're going to see here in a second. 2 of the new mechanics for this phase of the boss fight. So let's just go through it. You can see here, these are the electricity circles I'm talking about. They slowly move across the lines, and then they'll slowly disappear and basically leave an empty gap for you to walk in and out of. Immediately, you're going to get some ad spawns. We throw down a couple rings just to group the ads up initially. These beams are also rotating out of the boss in this phase. There's just the same beams as the intermission, so if you get hit by them, you do get a long, nasty stun, so you really want to make sure you avoid this. There is a bit of ramp-up time, though. As you see there, I did not actually get touched by this beam when it spawned, even though I'm kind of close to it. So you have a little bit of leeway when it spawns. It's not going to immediately hit you. And on these mobs, this is what the CC rotation is for. As you can see, they die almost instantly. So you don't need to milk these CCs here. Just rip the first stun. The other thing we did is we did a pressing roar like I was talking about this set before the leg sweep. And basically they die in 1 CC, these mobs. So it's as long as you are killing these mobs quickly, like I said, you don't really need the CC assignment if you just have like a big leg sweep assigned with an oppressing roar on the 2 ad sets in the entire fight. You can just do that, and that will likely kill them, and you should have 1 follow-up maybe, and that's all you really need. Now, there's also 3 sentries that spawn here, 1 here in melee, which just dies, and then 2 in range, 1 here and then 1 on the last ring. Big thing about these mobs on Mythic, you can only interrupt Shock Barrage 1 singular time, then it becomes uninterruptible. So they're milking this kick. 1, 2, the Curse of Tongues, similar to the tech on Bandit. You can do it on these mobs to make their second cast a little slower to buy you some more time. But basically, we've just assigned 1 mage to kick this guy and 1 mage to kick the other guy at the back. And no kick rotation needed for them because they only have 1 kick. And specifically, we have a few classes that are assigned to make sure they are hard focusing these mobs. One of them is the dragon. Dragons are really good at killing these guys. The warlocks are really good at killing these guys. And then generally other range like the multi-dotters are also going to be making sure that they're dotting these guys up and getting damage into them. Again, this is the second hardest DPS check maybe of the fight. Make sure you kill these sentry ads before they get their second shock barrage cast off. kick the first one late, and then you see there it's not interruptible in the corner of my screen. So kill them before that happens. So that's the biggest thing. Kill this before that happens. It's actually not even a one shot though. If you see this is going to go off on a person, you can give them an external and they'll just live, or they can pop a personal and they'll just live. But this gets very scary. Like you can see here, it's targeting one of the VIPs, right? So you really don't want these casts to go off, and they should never go off. So just make sure you are kicking late. That's the biggest thing. One thing too, paladins, be careful. You can see I have divine toll. This would be a sick divine toll, right? Don't press that button here. Don't do that. It has a chance to interrupt these sentries, which would be very bad if you interrupted them at like 2 seconds in the cast. So be careful with divine toll. And then let's get into the movement here, because basically these bombs are going to rotate through, filling in the middle ring and then the outer ring. And at the same time, you're trying to dodge these beams, at the same time trying to dodge these puddles. Basically for melee, you have 2 opportunities to dodge out. One is right now. You can dodge out here and then move across and then come in behind this beam when it rotates here. That's when you run out here, boom, like they're doing right now, run around and then go back in on that side like that. The other movement is what I'm going to do here. You have a few of us here. We basically are hitting the boss. As soon as these go off, we run out and we do the same thing. Those are the 2 potential spots you can move in the first intermission of this fight. And then that's it for this phase for melee. For ranged, it's honestly much easier. You just kind of can go back and forth between the areas in your assigned spots. It's very easy for range, to be completely honest with you. Melee have it the worst because there's also the beam, but range are just kind of hard chilling out there. Now, we're going to pull the boss again to the middle because we've got frontal cone soaks to deal with, right? And so we want to point these in such a way that our VIPs are safe over here. And it's not pointed at them, but there's enough space for the melee people to actually be in the soak, and there's enough coverage that the range people who are supposed to be in the soak are going to be in it. And that's easiest if the boss is obviously positioned in between our 2 raid splits, right? So here is group 1. This is not a scary overlap. This is the normal overlap. So you just need a personal here. Again, no matter what, this is scary. This is a shared healing absorb. So healing any of the targeted individuals will apply to reducing that healing absorb to 0. But you basically just don't want to have someone's health drop all the way down to like 0 here, right? Like if someone is like a sliver of health, it's going to look really, really scary on the frame. So you can see here, light personals, there's really no other damage going out on this one. So as long as you are surviving the actual the actual cone going out, you're totally fine. If you have a class that has abilities to increase their healing taken during this, it's quite good. You can focus healing into them. Like I'm running the Ardent Defender, increases your healing taken talent, and I can just pump healing into myself and with Ardent Defender up for this, and that helps to break the healing absorb a little faster, as an example. Just tank swap on the frontals, so you're going to get like an ego check here and there potentially, but it's just like literally like one at a time, not a big deal. And then we get suppression circles. So in this situation, the range tend to try and group up a little bit and move together, and melee can just kind of move out. Only a few players get assigned to get those the ton of circles, as you saw there. Most players will only get like a few circles spawning on them. You can see there's like 3 circles there. That's like normal for range. And then this is the only a few targeted players get this. So when you get this, just move kind of as a group really out of the way. You'll have this WeakAura will say safe. If you do that, tanks, I'm kind of ignoring it. Sorry, not sorry. I'm just for boss positioning, but I'm not even taking the boss right now, so he's ignoring it. And then you get these bombs. So there's no more tank soak bombs. In their place, you get these ones, which go out, as you can see, on a bunch of players. And you really just need to make sure you are making a safe place. This is going to be followed by the little orange circles on the ground as well. And the biggest thing to note is that it seems like the players targeted by these big bomb circles aren't eligible targets to have the little bombs thrown at them, which means that most of the area covered by these bomb circles is going to be safe, assuming no one else was in them, of course. There's still, obviously, if you're near them, you can spawn some just inside of it, but it's something to keep an eye out on for those bomb circles to make sure you're avoiding them. With that being said, the bomb circles, both in this phase and phase 1, are like the lowest source of damage out of all the ground stuff. For the most part, like it's less than these lightning puddles. It's less than this, I believe. Maybe it's a little bit more than the ticks of these, but it's like a relatively small hit, so you can actually kind of get hit by them if you need to, so it's not a huge deal. So you can see when it's assigned to melee, you can go to these 2 corners here and leave a safe spot
for the rest of the melee. So something to keep in mind. If there's 3 melee, you can see like you'd have to either go out here or out down to the left here, and one person would just lose uptime. But the boss DPS check is totally irrelevant. It's not hard. So just lose uptime if you have to for safety. These bombs are going to go off. You're going to immediately be able to see where the new bombs are going to be. So these little things on the ground here, these are where the circles are going to show up. They show up a little bit later, but you can preemptively see like that whole area where there was a bomb circle is safe from these little circles. So something to keep in mind, you can pre-move and see. Same deal with the blazes. You're trying to make a safe area, but now you can't do exactly what you did in phase 1 because you're kind of divided into 2 sides with this line down the middle. So you're just trying to point these off and away if possible. We see this guy had like the cursed lineup. So does this guy actually. So they're just trying to move away, plant, and let everyone else avoid them. Do not move last minute with those blazes. That is the way to kill people. This is straight into a Giga Blast bait, which we do kind of poorly, to be honest with you. We should have baited this a little better. The biggest thing you want to do is try not to fill up the entire melee section of this fight. We have a little bit of a sliver here, so it's okay, but this probably could have killed people, so be careful. Try and point this off like a little bit more this way, I would say, as opposed to filling up the entire melee area, just so people can shift to a decently sized open space. This does still spawn the stun orbs. Now, we fully charged all of our bombs. We don't care about the stun orbs in this phase. However, they are still orbs that can stun you if you walk into them, and this is an easy way to die. There's a couple things you can do. 1, you can wait them out. 2, you can clear them with an immunity. So in this case, I'm actually going to bubble and I'm going to clear them. I am going to notice that a couple of these spawned totally away from us, so it's not a big deal, but I did clear the 2 that were kind of relevant to us, and I'll do that basically every single time that ability happens on our side of the room, just to give us a little bit more safety. And from here, you've seen basically everything in this boss fight except for the hard overlap, which is going to come up in about 25 seconds. It's just rinse and repeat from here. It's honestly, there's no different things. There's no other spooky overlaps other than the one I'm about to cover. You just get out for the suppressions, move the circles out as a group if you can, avoid the circles for the people that aren't assigned to it. You get out with the bombs, you point the blaze lines away, and the boss just kind of dies. It's a very, very weird boss fight. We killed the boss on our first time into phase 3. As a note, like we saw phase 3 literally one singular time and killed the boss. It's a very weird difficulty curve, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, but I do want to talk about this scary overlap coming up at 606, I believe is where it is. So it starts with these bomb circles, and this is going to then trigger the little bombs at the ground, which are going to go off at the exact same time as the frontal cone. So this is why you're stacking all of your big defensive CDs on the side. This is group 1 side. So it's going to go out here. Again, I'm spell warding our shaman. I'm popping a personal and my trinket. We have our Mistweaver popping diffuse and potentially cocooning himself as well, maybe. We have our rogue cloaking. We have our shadow priest dispersing. And we have our hunter turtling, all in this soak to make sure that, 1, the initial hit is survived, his house barely moved, but also you can see the bombs underneath me all blew up at the same time. I can't move that frontal, right? Like I have to be pointing that frontal in the right spot. So everyone kind of needs to make sure they have really strong defensives to allow them to not only tank the frontal and survive, but also tank those circles on the ground too, if they just happen to have a bad spawn. Now, the other thing I didn't totally mention, I think, for this frontal, another mythic mechanic is you do get these circles on the players that are targeted. So you don't want to cleave these. You can see we're kind of stacked in a line across the wall here to make sure that we're not cleaving each other, because that would be, some additional healing absorb, I believe, which is very bad. So don't do that. But otherwise, I mean, you can see even with those big defensives, like our Mistweaver still drops pretty low, even with, he did bubble himself and diffused. So it's still very scary. I think that's probably the weakest of the CDs we had assigned there. But still, I mean, very, very scary. You want to put very strong CDs in group 1, and that is exactly why. And then from there, like I said, it's just the same old, same old. So these electric orbs, you want to be very careful. That's electric orbs into suppression. You need to make sure you do not get stunned during suppression. That is a guaranteed way to die. And then we're going to be transitioning into the next phase. Before that, though, we do need to dunk the last bomb. So you can see our warrior tank here. After the 4th soak, I taunt the boss. And shortly after, he's going to go on a little adventure here with the evoker. Now, there's a couple ways for you to actually deal with this soak. A couple racials that you can use. So the first is Dracthyr racial. You can glide over there. Obviously, if you're just a demon hunter tank, you can also glide over there. The other thing you can use, I believe, is a Goblin Rocket Jump would also work for this. What our tank does is he uses a Potion of Gusts. So he's going to go over there, use a Potion of Gusts to jump across because there's actually no platform down for this generator. And he's going to get rescued back by our Evoker. So you can see both our tank and our Evoker are out of range on my frames, doing shenanigans up there. He Potion of Gusts, jumps off the platform to blow up the generator, and then gets rescued back. And after that, we call for, hey, everyone needs to start moving over this way, because this area, after a short delay, to start to fill with the with lightning. So beware of that. Also beware, yeah, the blaze knocks. Be careful. So they've now come back. Giga Coils is now starting, and it's after Giga Coils where this is going to fill with lightning. So immediately after that happens. So everyone needs to move over here before that Giga Coils cast actually goes off. And this is the intermission now into phase 3, where it's the exact same as the one into phase 1, except with one quadrant. Again, bubbling, going to clear all of these last orbs for this phase. 3 sentries spawn across the room. Actually, 4 sentries spawn here. Not even 3. These close ones are going to just die. We have 3 kicks assigned for these ones over here. These ads also just die kind of in 1 CC again. Again, you get the oppressing roar, you get the sweep, and it's just really dead. And same deal for melee here. The exact same situation I talked about before. The bombs go off. You immediately go out. You go around. And then range is just out here killing these 2 sentries, ideally before the second shock barrage cast finishes. And again, this was going to end before the second beam closes off your space. And then here, same deal. We're pulling the boss to the middle of this platform. And then it's just the same thing. It's just P2, but you're in 1 quadrant. So the biggest thing is these cone soaks. It's going to go off. The people assigned to the middle of the room, not in these cone soaks, may need to shift right slightly here. That's the one thing to be aware of. You can see they move a little bit just to make sure they're not in it. But otherwise, it's the same groups. It's the exact same groups in 1 quadrant, which I'll show again here. They're exact same groups, but just in 1 quadrant. So you have the VIPs in the middle, avoiding it. You have the melee off to the sides here, which I can show again. They can be either off to this side here or off to this side here. They can just rotate around when they're not supposed to be in the soak. And then, yeah, the group is just on the other side. It's very straightforward. Like I said, it's literally just copy paste. And then again, you have a similarly dangerous frontal soak as the third one of this phase, which again lands back onto group number 1, which you can use all of the same cooldowns, except spell warding comes after the fact. You cannot spell warding before. You get it up immediately after the frontal, assuming you spell warding early enough on the first frontal. So the timing is pretty tight on it. So you need to have that person pop a decent sized personal for that instead. So like, again, a lot of times we saw Resto Druids doing it, so they would like Barkskin Bear form it. Our Resto Shaman has Astral Shift, so he's Astral Shifted, and I can spell ward him after the fact, or I can just spell ward someone else who went really low during that last frontal. And that's this fight. Again, very kind of underwhelming end of the fight. I enjoyed the fight as a whole. I enjoyed the idea of the fight being kind of secret. But you know, it definitely a bit odd in terms of difficulty curve. But you know, there we have it, guys. That is the Chrome King GALLYWIX. Hopefully this helps you and your guild achieve cutting edge. And if it does, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like it. Remember, if you have any questions at all, leave those down in the comments and I will do my best to answer. At the same time, again, I'm going to be putting out a bunch more content just like this one, like PTR stuff, as well as raid guides for next season. Once season 3 is up on the PTR. Plus, I've got more Season 2 content on the way as well, including advanced dungeon guides meant for players looking to push for the 0.1% title. So if that's you, make sure you check those videos out. Otherwise, big shout out to all of my amazing Patreons for their continued support, and I'll see everyone in the next video.